Nothing hits harder at a summer barbecue than the mac and cheese. As long as it's good mac and cheese. If it's grainy, then I don't want it. This version has all of that gooey goodness of a stovetop mac and cheese with that crispy top of a baked mac and cheese. There's one special ingredient that's required to make it happen, but you probably already have it. Here's how to make it. For our one special ingredient that you've gotta have, it's gonna be the one and only American cheese. The sodium citrate that's used to make this cheese melty allows the sauce to stay gooey baked in the oven. I truly have yet to have a good mac and cheese made with a roux. It always tastes grainy. It's baked in the oven at a high temperature, so it always splits. You're always gonna end up with a sauce that's kind of like fluffy and grainy, and that's from the cheese splitting. Flour just doesn't have the ability to hold an emulsion like sodium citrate does. Literally the first recipe I ever remember being excited about making was mac and cheese from a kid's cookbook, and I remember being so disappointed by the time that I finished it because it turned out grainy and gross, and I just never understood why. This is the solution to that, and it's required for pretty much every good baked mac and cheese. Our liquid base is gonna be 350 mils of evaporated milk, and we're gonna need an equal amount of cheese. To ensure creamy gooiness, at least half of the cheese needs to be American. I like about 200 grams of American cheese and 150 grams of pepperjack for flavor. To prep these cheeses, simply tear the American slices into smaller pieces for more even melting. The pepperjack can then be grated on the large holes of a box grater. For additional flavor and texture, cream cheese is really nice here. It adds a little bit of tang that's reminiscent of a sharp cheddar and gives you that beautiful silky mouthfeel. Now for the most flavorful mac and cheese, we need a little bit of aromatic goodness. 1 clove of garlic, just for that little bit of garlicky backbone. I don't want it to be a garlic mac and cheese though. Dice 1 seeded jalapeno just for some heat, and then drain 1 small can of hot hatch chilies. These are going to perfume the cheese sauce with a little bit of heat and acidity. It's truly a wonderful thing. Okay, now to the cooking portion. In a pot over medium heat, add in a little bit of butter and then drop in those drained chilies and jalapeno. We want to cook these down until their water is pretty much gone and they've softened slightly. This is also a great time to get a pot of salted water on the boil for our pasta. Once these are soft, add in your garlic and cook that for a minute until the garlic is nice and fragrant. Add in your 350 ml can of evaporated milk and let that begin to warm through. We can turn the heat down to medium-low here and then add in the American cheese to gently melt. Start with the American so the sodium citrate is in the pot by the time the pepperjack goes in. Once the American cheese is melted, you can add in your pepperjack. Just be sure to fully emulsify it into the sauce by mixing. Add in your cream cheese and let that melt in as well, and this sauce is pretty much ready to go. We'll season this up with 3 grams of a seasoning salt. Something like Tony's, Slap Your Mama, or just an adobo works really well. Let this sit on low on the heat while we boil our pasta. Okay, the pasta choice is up to you, but I think a fun shape that holds the sauce is perfect for this. This is just between you and me, but I almost never use macaroni for my macaroni and cheese. Does that make me a liar? Maybe. All you need to do is cook these in a pot of salted water to 2 minutes less than the lowest time on the box. If it says 8 minutes, go for 6. This said 6, so I'm going for 4. Remove some of the pasta water and save it later for the mixing process, as this is going to need to be a lot more liquidy than you think before it goes into the oven. If there isn't enough moisture, the final dish is going to be dry after baking. Drain your pasta and mix it directly into the cheese sauce. For real though, just look at how delicious and creamy this already looks. If you wanted to, you could just fully cook the pasta and serve this as a giant stovetop mac, but that's not what we're doing here today. To get this ready for the oven, we're gonna need to add enough pasta water, so this is much more liquidy. Something like this right here is right. It's hard to tell you exactly how much you're gonna need, but just know that the sauce is gonna need to be liquidy rather than gloopy. This was almost all of that water I grabbed, which was probably like 200, 300 mils or so. Pour that into a baking dish and top it with a handful of shredded cheese, then cover it with foil. This can go into a 400 Fahrenheit degree oven for 25 minutes. Once you see bubbling, you can remove the foil and turn on the low broiler if your oven has that setting. Move it to a slightly higher rack and brown it at 2-minute intervals. I find my broiler can be pretty uneven, so I have to rotate the pan a bunch. If you don't have a broiler, simply let it go for another few minutes uncovered until it's browned to your liking. Remove this from the oven and let it cool while you try your hardest not to burn your mouth. I don't really know what else to say about this other than just look at the dichotomy between the creamy interior and that crunchy top. Some of the noodles get a little bit dark and extra brown, and those are the bits that I really love. This is sort of redemption for that disappointing dish of my childhood. That grainy sauce contrasted to this beautiful, luxurious creaminess. The chilies are there to bring a nice little bit of heat. The garlic's there to give a little bit of backbone. It's seasoned, it's perfect, and it lasts a long time in this gooey state from all the heat that's in the pan. So you can make it and bring it to a party like 40 minutes later, and it's still gonna be deliciously gooey when you go to scoop it up. This is gonna be the thing that goes first at the barbecue. I can almost guarantee it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. Let me know in the comments down below if you're a stovetop person or a baked person. Usually I'm a stovetop person, but I make an exception for this one. Massive shout out to the amazing people supporting me directly on Patreon through patreon.com/CameronMarty. They get some cool benefits for supporting the channel, and I get to keep making these videos, so it's a win-win. Check it out and consider becoming a patron. Now, if you're looking for the most luxurious and tender pancakes you can possibly make, check out last week's video on that. Thanks again for watching. Cheers.